Now in this section I'm going to have a quick look at HTML. Now HTML stands for Hypertext Markup Language, if you really wanted to know. And traditionally HTML uses what's called tags. So the way a tagging language works is, let's say you've got some text on your web page. When you simply mark it as bold, what actually happens is let's say you've marked one word as bold, you would have a piece of code before the bold starts, and then when you want to turn the bold off, you'd have what's called an ending tag. So let's say you wanted to mark the word SEO as bold in some text. If you actually looked at the code behind the scenes, as it were, you'd have a little tag just before the word SEO, and the tag would be less than b greater than, and that would turn the bold on. And then at the end of the word you'd have less than / bold, then greater than. So you'd have this tag for turning the bold on, then turning the bold off. And that's essentially how most SEO tags work. As I say, it's called a tagging language. Now browsers and HTML, the function of a web browser is basically to interpret the HTML code, and it'll display sort of formatted text according to what the code says. It might display an embedded video or a picture, and as I say, it's important to realize that the browser just simply looks at the HTML code and interprets that code and then formats it and displays it on the screen. So example of browsers would be things like Microsoft Explorer, Microsoft Edge, Chrome, Opera, Safari. There's lots of different browsers. They all work in a slightly different way, but as I said, their function is to interpret the HTML code and display the results of that code on the screen. Now if you want to, you can actually view the HTML code. What you do is you just go to an empty part of a website screen. So within your browser you display a website, and then you just right click on an empty part, and you'll see something like View Page Source. The actual words will vary slightly from one browser to another, but when you do that, you'll see the code in the background. Now this illustration that I've got on the screen here, this is very much a simplified illustration. This is just using literally pure HTML code. If you try this in reality, you'll find that it looks far more complicated than this. The structure's still the same, but if for instance you right click on, say, a page that was created in WordPress, you would find all sorts of extra bits and pieces in there, but the essentials, as you can see on the screen here, are still true. So it's important to realize that if we look at these tags here, it starts with an HTML code at the top, so it's less than HTML greater than. Then down at the bottom of the code there, you've got the sort of end tag, if you like, which is less than / HTML greater than. So the entire page is defined as existing between these two HTML tags. Now within the HTML tags, you've got basically two sections. You've got a header area where you get things like your title and your description, and then you've got the body area, and it's within the body area that all the text and the formatting information and things like that would be displayed, information about your pictures and links, things like that. So it's important to realize there's basically two sections: the head area, and within the head area you essentially can include detail for Google's benefit, like the title and the description, and within the body area, that basically contains all the text and the formatting information for what visitors are actually going to see on the screen. So as I say, just to reiterate, two sections, head and body sections. Head is really for Google's benefit, body for viewers' benefit, and you can see that on the screen here. So you've got these two sections. Now you don't have to worry too much about this. The reason I'm showing you all this is just so you get an idea of what's in the head area, what's in the body area. You don't need to ever look at code normally with websites, but it's just useful if you have a sort of basic idea of what's going on. So as I said, the head section starts with the opening header statement or tag, and then you've got the closing statement. And as I say, it's within the head section that the important SEO stuff goes, things like the title and the description. The body area, as I've said, is basically everything you see on the screen within the web browser. Now, the title tag, the reason I'm talking about HTML is because you've got this thing called the title, or the HTML title, and I'll mention it numerous times in this course. So here we go one more time. The title tag is the single most important on-site SEO factor of all. It's very important you get the title right. In this case, we've got a rather bad title, in fact, and I'll explain why later. It simply says, "Welcome to my Perth plumbing website." If you think about it, it's not telling me too much about what this plumbing company does. And as we'll see in the title, the very first word should be straight off the bat in what you do, how you do it, where you are, something like that. So in this particular case, it's actually an appalling title because the first three words are "welcome to my." So we've just really wasted a whole bunch of valuable real estate there, because the very first words in the title, and we've got a separate chapter on the title later, the title should start straight off the bat with something like Perth Plumbing Company or something like that, rather than wasting the first three words, which in this case are "welcome to my." However, that's a very common mistake I see over and over again, and we'll talk more about this later. The description tag also goes into the head area. Now, I've already mentioned the fact the title is very, very important to SEO. The description doesn't really affect your SEO as such, but as we'll see later, your description can have an enormous effect on the click-through rate. So do remember, the reason that these two items are important is that if you do a really good title and Google likes your title, then when people do a search for your website, in the snippets that are displayed, a snippet is one of those 10 results you see in the search engine results page. Ideally, your snippet will use the title and description that you actually define here.